peculiar name. When you're pronouncing it, you don't just pronounce like every other name. So, Jochebed, did I get it this time?
Excellent.
Oh, I think I have to give some kudos to myself. Okay, Ambe, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the program.
Okay, we're glad to have you here. We don't get to have people like you who are dedicated to looking after our children like you do. I'm talking because the dedication, ladies and gentlemen, is there. You will see that subsequently. And then we have another amazing lady. She has lived with an autistic child for years, and she's a loving parent to one of them. She is a quality controller, but not just that. The most important thing is she's a mother to an autistic child. She dedicates her love, just like Jochebed we were talking about, dedicates her love, her time, studying the child in her own way as a parent to ensure that the child is properly catered for. We, of course, are talking to Madame Delphine Agborsangaya. Am I right?
You're correct.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I had been struggling to not blab over that name because it is unique and a beautiful one. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. My pleasure to be here.
I hope it wasn't tedious getting here.
No, it wasn't tedious.
But I know with Holland it was because of the stairs. Well, she made it after all. So we're talking today about autism. We are all people who've been, in one way or the other, you're interwoven with children who live in with autism. And from the research we did earlier, we realized that the number is increasing in Africa. It wasn't like that in the yesteryears. But now, before we go ahead, I want to find out something. Even before I get to the doctor for us to get the details about autism, I want to find out how it was you, as a parent, realizing that there's something wrong with my child. How was it that moment?
Okay, so my child...
What's his name to begin with?
He's a boy. He's called Jamil.
Okay.
Handsome boy.
Oh, yeah.
So he's my second child. So he has an elder brother. And it happened that he's growing up. His from conception to delivery, everything was okay. And while my son was growing up and I was expecting him to meet some milestones like his elder brother, whom at the age of 11 months could at least say mama or pronounce a few words. We all want to hear that, don't we? We do. So this wasn't the case with Jamil. And I was patient with him till the age of 1, then 1 year, 5 months, then 2 years. The words were not coming, so I was worried. And of course, like every other mother, I had to take him to the pediatrician to consult him and find out if there was anything wrong. But the pediatrician reassured me that everything was okay and he could just be slow in speech and that it will come with time. And I was like, but what time? This is 2 years. And it was kind of a roller coaster because I went back home not feeling satisfied. I tried other pediatricians, and finally I met one who sent us for a series of tests, which we did. And finally he gave me the diagnosis. He told me that it could be that he is on the autism spectrum, which was something I had not heard before. So I had to ask a lot of questions. What is autism? So the doctor on his part wasn't an expert in the field, but he told me that I should take him back home and he'll be referring me to other specialists who will better assist me to follow up the child. So when I left the hospital and went back home, with my curious mind, I went on the net and tried to do some research to find out what this condition was all about. And then it just dawned on me that I have been seeing other children like him who don't talk, So now I know I have a child with a disability, and this is a challenge in front of me, which I have to deal with. So it took me a couple of days to settle on the diagnosis, to accept it. And I didn't waste time on it, okay? I didn't waste time lamenting, crying. I said, Delphine, this is your challenge. You have to stand up and support your child.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, I went ahead and try to get more information, get the awareness to know what the condition is all about and how I can handle my child. And, you know, once I got the awareness, it was, I think, the beginning of a solution.
Kind of. And Precious, you've been discussing with someone who is a resident in the United States, and it's about the same time she discovered her child, Nadesh. Yeah.
So I was discussing with Nadesh, and she told me she's really impressed with the fact that we're talking about autism in Africa, because she, based in the US, she knows that so many people they always associate autism and other kind of disorder to witchcraft or some kind of mystical thing or some kind of superstition. So she was really impressed with the fact that we are talking about autism. And then she equally realized the same time. And I'm kind of impressed because the same word she used are the same word Nadesh to use. Like the words like milestone.
I think I heard that.
So those are the same word, and it got me wondering, like, is it that's what they teach parents? Is that the word they tell parents? Like, is that what they ask you to, like, because normally it's a training when you accept that your child is autistic.
Yeah, and that acceptance matters.
You kind of go through a training, because this is something you've never heard about, or maybe you don't know about. You've been seeing it, but you don't know that this is autism. So that gets me to ask Dr. Holland here, what is autism really?
What is autism? Well, we know that autism is not a disease. We know that autism is not witchcraft. We know that autism is not a spiritual curse of any kind. Autism is a deficiency in the processing areas of the brain. They're not functioning correctly, and so thought processes, decision-making, interrelational communication isn't there.
I want to note the fact that you said it is not a disease, because that is contrary to what we used to think, that this child is sick of autism. So it's not disease. You cannot be contagious. It's not contagious. Another child will not pick it because the younger brother maybe has it.
That's correct. It is not contagious. And while we're not sure whether it can run in a family, it doesn't mean that every child that's conceived is going to be autistic. It doesn't mean that. Right now, what we do know is that it is just the processing of thought and of emotion and decision-making that is deficient in autistic children. And so they fly off the handle. They get very easily agitated. They're very sensitive to excessive stimulation, too much light, too much sound, too much vibration, too much touching. Certain textures of things.
So maybe most of them are like a recluse. They would prefer to be on their own and not interact.
They're all turned within themselves. It's not that they're fearing what's outside. It's that they're focused inwardly, and so anything on the outside is an intrusion in a sense to them, and they don't process their environment and the relationships to be able to communicate and behave at an appropriate level.
Okay, and I remember you've been working with children, Jochebed, who've been working with children who are autistic, and you say that most times it's because they have a worry about your understanding of them, which kind of make them want to pull away. Is that the case?
Of course, we say that the children with autism, they're often in their own world. That is why they are withdrawn. You know, they are most of the times, like the look is myself, the look inward. So the environment kind of is
rather scare them.
Not like scared, is like they can't relate.
Okay.
They have difficulties relating.
They fear not being understood.
Yes, they have difficulties. So for you to be able to work with a child with autism, you should be able to understand autism, understand them, and be able to tap into their world, get into their world. I would liken this to, if you want to reach a people, you have to be like them, like try to be like them, try to behave like them. So when you tap into their world, you're able to understand them. You'll be able to understand what they want, what they like, what they are. And then you use that to work with them and start building their competencies, so that they're able now to relate with their environment.
You are dealing with a handful of these children, and one thing that struck me was the fact that you say the people could look at them in a way, but they are special. Sometimes one of them have got one thing that
One special thing.
yeah
That make them stand out.
Yes, they are very, very special.
Have you,
And-
let me talk to it. Give me just a moment. I want to ask Madam Delphine, immediately you spoke about the being special. I wanted to find, I'm dying to know if there's that one thing you've spotted with your son that you see he's talented in this particular thing and you're kind of drilling him thought it.
Okay, right now I can say I've really spotted that strong point.
How old is he, by the way?
In my son. Yeah, I was going to talk about his age. He
Yes.
is 7.
Okay.
So what I know is that he is very energetic. Okay, he's very energetic. He is smart. Sometimes I make fun of him. I say maybe he's going to be an Olympic champion in the family.
A sprinter, who knows?
Sprinter.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm not quite sure if between now and maybe 5 years down the road, he will still be that way, but I'm still trying to figure out what he can really
Be interested in.
he can be interested in, and what we can really help him to develop. So I'm still, but for now I know that he has a lot of potentials, because you know, when you have an autistic child, what really hits you is the fact that you feel like, this child, what am I going to do with this child? Maybe the child cannot learn, he cannot adapt to situations, you know, maybe he'll be dependent for life. But with time, I've come to learn that autistic children are very smart. I see that in my son. He can learn very well. You just need to teach him. You just have to be patient with him and, you know, practice routines. So I'm still trying to figure out, and I am confident that by the time he gets to adulthood, there will be something about him that we can develop so that he can maybe focus on that. For
You're
his
looking
own
forward to that.
development.
I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to that because the first time I heard about autism was in a movie.
Okay.
Yes, in a movie, Dr. Sean. I don't know if you guys have ever watched it.
You're talking about it one day, and then I remembered that I seem to have watched that. I may not have known the title, but some doctor, he's a little nerdy, he's a little...
Good Doctor.
Yet, yes,
That's
but
the
he
name,
was so
The
smart.
Good Doctor.
The problems come, and before long, he's just on his own, sorting it out. Even that should be it, right?
That should be it.
Oh.
So he's autistic, and he's very smart, a medical doctor, a surgeon for that matter, and he's very good at what he does. Very good. Like everything just pop up in his head, and he puts 1 and 2 together, and then he can just do a surgery just by looking up in the sky, and then put everything together, and then he already tells you what's happening
Your
with
problem
you.
is, yeah.
So and when I was speaking with Nadesh, she told me that her son is good in music, and he has all the instruments. He has a guitar, he has a drum. He's 3 years old, by the way.
Okay.
He has the guitar, he has the drum, he has a saxophone. So
she's given him all the musical
she
instruments.
just pushed him towards that direction because he loves music so much. He loves music so much. So I really praise a guest because she has not yet discovered that niche, but she has seen something in him.
Yeah, like close to it then.
Yes, and it's like, okay. And it's a great thing being a sprinter. Maybe he'll be one of the best.
Yes. Maybe tomorrow he's the one who'll be making Cameroon proud.
Of
who knows?
course, he could be the Francis Ngannou of...
Oh.
Not that he'll be beating people.
Oh, you know, he won't, will he? Now, Dr. Holland, we want to find out the severity and levels of autism. Like, we know that, okay, you see this child, and the child is autistic, but it seems a little different from another autistic child. Are there some levels of severity with regards to autism?
Excuse me, that's why they call it a spectrum, or we call it a spectrum, because there's such a wide variety of degrees of severity. And it can be a child who is totally out of control behaviorally, doesn't speak, won't eat. I have seen children in the past. There was one child who I think her parents were both drug addicts, and they just totally ignored her. And she came to me at the age of 5, and the only way she would eat is if you put a bowl down on the floor, and she would eat like a dog out of that bowl.
You do not say.
Because that was the only way she was fed. So, I mean, that's severe, and she never spoke. She wouldn't follow instruction. She soiled herself all the time. So that's extreme severity. On the other hand, at the other end of the spectrum, we know that there are corporate executives, and as you know of the physician, there are corporate executives who we just know are Asperger's syndrome, which is at the far other end. And the characteristic is, again, that focus. Once you find the point of interest, they can focus and keep every detail in alignment so that nothing fails. And so they're tremendously successful in managing large corporations because of that focus.
In our context here in Africa, there are some points where people kind of relate autism to witchcraft. I don't know if it's the same in the United States.
No, in the United States, it isn't thought of as witchcraft. They've tried to blame vaccines. They're mainly looking for other causes. Yeah. But we've done lots of research, and it is not associated with any vaccines. And so we know we've dispelled that fear.
Someone had said that, made a comment that autism seemed to be a mystery when it comes to science, that it's kind of breaking all the norms of science because they're not finding it, yet they keep searching. Let me come back to you. I don't know if I'm coming back to you just because I want to call that name Jochebed. It's a cute name, though. You've been working with these children. Are these some of them whom you go back home and you keep thinking about them and you're smiling? I'm actually wanting to turn around that talent part where they say there is that one thing that you see a child. Are they some of these children you have spotted that they are really great at this? This one is great at that.
All the students in my school with autism are great in something. They are very good in something. And I tell you what, I always say that I don't think I'll ever have a heart attack because I laugh every day.
Oh, wow.
Some of the activities we do, sometimes I'll just take videos and then I will just sit and watch. I would laugh. I would just feel good. It just makes me feel good when I see my students progressing and doing things that maybe people thought they would not be able to do. When I see my students read the alphabet, irrespective of their age, you know. When I see my students, you know, do number work like solve mathematics, do addition, do subtraction, something that some people thought they would not, even their parents can't believe they would do that. When I send those videos to parents, sometimes they cry. Oh. They weep and like, oh my God, I didn't know my child can do this. We have very talented students who are on the spectrum, very, very talented. Like Doctor said, children with autism, they are very keen to details.
Okay.
And when they have their focus on something, and if you teach them to do something, they'll do it perfectly. They love perfection. They like perfection. They want everything to be orderly. And that is why in the corporate world now, I know in the US, Cameroon, we are still laid back. There are certain jobs they're looking for autistic people, just autistic people to do.
Whoa, okay.
Yes, certain, like if you go to some companies, you find certain areas that they just want someone with autism to do, because it's a job that is very delicate and they want it to be perfect. If you tell an autistic child that this is how you draw a line, you know, this is how you draw a line. There's no way you can draw it another way. There's no way you can draw it another way. If you want to do it another way, he will have a crisis. You have problems with him. You know, you start screaming. He may just start screaming, protesting.
You know, if from the way you're talking, I feel like if autistic children were rulers, countries would have been perfect, you know, because the child knows that, okay, corruption is wrong. How dare you try to corrupt someone?
That is, if you give them an idea, it'll be difficult to change that idea. Very, very difficult. We had a student, he's now in secondary school. If you come like today and tell him that this is the calendar of the year, you say this month we're going to have this on this date at this time, as you're making that announcement, everything is registered here. He will give it back to you.
That is a trap you're setting, because the day you don't do it.
He's in class, he knows, He's on the other side, like he's on the smart side.
Okay.
He knows the timetable by heart. He knows what teacher has to come in for at what time and what teacher is not supposed to come in at this time. When it's your period, and when your period is over, he would call your name. You say, Mr. This is your time is up with his robotic voice. And you say, go out.
And you cannot
say it is time for mathematics with Mr. This, and this. Yes, he will tell you that.
But then, is that not a limitation? Because we know change is a constant thing. Something can happen and there's a need to change.
To say that autistic people, if you teach them the right thing, don't teach them the bad things.
Yeah.
You have to be role models around them.
Okay.
And it's good because
Yes, so
if it's your time, what are you doing
when
here?
they learn the right thing,
Yes.
things will change. Like Doctor said, many corporate executives are autistic. That's why we learned about Steve Jobs.
Yes.
Do you know he was on the spectrum? That is why he led his company so well.
Okay.
There are so many inventions that we are enjoying today because of autistic people.
Wow.
Yes.
This
so
is
many.
so beautiful to know.
So many. Somebody like Einstein was suspected that he was on the spectrum. So there was a suspicion that he was on the spectrum. Because they are great thinkers, they focus on that thing and they ensure that they get the results they
And
want.
since you spoke about perfection, they are striving for
They
it.
want to get the right result, the right way, the way they want, the way they are thinking it, the way they think it should be.
This is amazing. And Precious, we still were talking about the fact that you said the children, you need attention on them. As a parent, how much consuming can that be? You have to dedicate so much time to this child, yet you're a quality controller. That is a big job.
You have your own job.
Yes, and now you have, it feels like a job in another job.
Well, having a child with a disability is a challenge you have to deal with. And you still need your energy and your focus to maintain your job because that job gets you going to take care of your child.
It brings the money.
So you really need to work on your organizational skills. You have to be organized. You need to set your priorities, okay? So I am a full-time employee and my child is at school. So I've put him in a center where they can take care of him because they have special needs education.
And I notice it's very expensive too to look after them.
It's very expensive. So that's why I say as a parent, you need to be able to organize yourself because you need to focus on the job. You also need to take care of your child. So while he's in school, at least I have the assurance that his safety is guaranteed. When he comes back home, I'm not there, but at least I've put a set of rules and some persons to assist me. There is a nanny, there is a guard, and I make sure that I give clear instructions on how to handle him so they don't mistakenly leave the gate and he goes out. And while he is there, they need to have their eyes on him because if you're not careful, he can pick up something and eat or drink. Yeah, so he really needs dedicated attention. And this is one of the reasons why I cannot just leave him with just anybody. It has to be somebody that I trust.
Trusting.
Yes, he is not locked up in the house.
Of course
he goes
not.
out, he has friends, and I take him to homes where they understand his condition and that they can take care of him even if I'm not there. So the attention is very, very important for your autistic child because these are people who don't have any sense of danger. He can jump from any height, he can rush to the road, so you really have to be careful with him. But the good thing is that they get better with time, because when my son was 2 years, 3 years, that attention issue was really critical. If you leave the gate open, he will run out. But I can say that since he turned between 5 and 6 years, is better now because you can even leave the gate open. He sees it open, but he doesn't go out. And even when he goes out, he plays just around the yard. He doesn't disappear like he used to do. He used to do before.
Dr. Holland, she mentioned that it gets better with time. Is there a possibility that with an autistic child, as the evolution is advancing, there's a moment when the child can never stop being autistic?
Well, I mean, it depends on the degree to which they start in the spectrum. And because thinking about the Asperger's, before we had the diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome, people didn't look at a corporate executive who was successful and think that they had some processing problem in terms of thought processing. So when you say, can they become normal at the high end of the spectrum, and as they move through the spectrum with good rehab, they can come closer and closer to the level of function that their underlying problem becomes unapparent to the people around them. Okay. But in terms of being able to predict that, you can't predict that.
She also mentioned that when she went to see the doctor the first time, they did not spot it. As you've been in Cameroon for as long as you have you noticed the lapses medicine here has got with regards to looking after autistic children?
Well, I think it's because physicians have not been given the opportunity to really learn the subtleties of the diagnosis of autism. And you know, normal children go through behavior problems, and so it's easy for them to say, oh, this is just normal behavior.
Maybe just a hyperactive child,
just give them time.
Yes.
So, you know, I see that a lot. But it took a while for American physicians to become aware as well. And it was only when it began to be part of the standard medical training that we began to have a better diagnosis and more research starting.
Okay, and I think more still has to be done.
Doctor, you've been talking about spectrum, and I believe that so many people do not really understand what it means, spectrum. So can you enlighten?
Well, I mean, we think of the rainbow as a spectrum. It's a spectrum of different light frequencies and giving us different colors. But the spectrum is designed to symbolize the fact that there are so many different degrees of severity, that there can be extremely severe children like the one that ate off the floor, to all the way up to the CEO, who for most people appears normal. And there are a lot of different levels in between and stages in between. And they're not really formal stages. I don't want to use that term because they're not places where a stage is a place where you when you're in that level, that's where you stay for a while until you come up to another. No, it's a continuum, we call it, which means there's no real defining lines for each of the levels of severity. It just flows. And so you can take a child who has not been exposed to rehabilitation, put them in a good school where people know, the teachers know what they're doing with regard to autistic children, and watch them blossom. And as Jochebed said, have a child learn to perform basic mathematic functions to the point their parents are surprised. Why? Because you're giving them the right guidance, the right direction, and
maybe the right environment.
That takes an environment, and that takes them along the spectrum, moves them a little higher in the spectrum.
Okay. So, Bibiana, we are very lucky because we have Nadesh, the video. Yeah. So good. She decided to just make us a little video to explain to us how she, first of all, discovered that her son is autistic. And she said it was a shock for her, but then she wasn't really surprised because before getting that news, she already read so much about autism, unlike some of us who didn't know what autism is. So let's just watch this video of Nadej explaining how she came about knowing that her son is autistic.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Nadej. I have a 7-year-old son with autism. His name is Levi. We found out that Levi had autism because he wasn't hitting his milestone, like the things that kids his age were doing, he was not doing. So he was fine from when he was born till about 18 months. we realized that he would not keep eye contact with you. Like if you're looking at him, he's looking at somewhere else. When you call his name, he doesn't respond. He goes about his business. You would talk to him. We almost got scared that he had ear problems, because you would call him and he would not turn around, which was something that he was doing. He had started eating food and soft baby food, and then he just stopped, and then he would make some repetitive sounds over and over. Just he just wasn't doing the things that kids his age were doing. And mind you, he has an older brother, so his older brother hit all the milestones, but he didn't. So I had something to compare with. I was like, your brother at this age, he was doing this and this, but you're not. So that is where the concern came in. My state of mind when I found out that my son had autism was, I was sad, of course. I was sad because I did a lot of research. Before we went for testing or anything, we had done a lot of research. I had read a lot about autism, so I knew what autism was. But I just did not accept it. When you read something and you're like, this is my child, but you don't want to accept. So I was kind of in denial, so that was my state of mind. Before we found out that Levi was autistic, well, we found out when he was 3. That is when we did the testing and everything and the evaluation. Before that, we had taken him to school because by then he had to have started pre-K. So we had taken him to school, and they observed him and said they were going to put him in a special needs section. So, but they didn't have any diagnosis yet. They didn't know what he had, if it was autism or anything. We were waiting for the doctor's result. So we applied, because usually you have to wait for a long time before you get a doctor. So we had applied, and but he was already going to school. So we were already actively doing everything to make sure that he was growing as he was supposed to grow, and then yeah, I mean, that's it. That's the only initiative that we took. Because always they always say early intervention is key. If you see something that is not adding up, do your research first before you even get the doctor's opinion.
Oh, that was amazing. And then I saw a lot of similitude with regards to...
Exactly what I was saying. Like, he's 7 years old. He's the second child. And he got diagnosed at the age of 3.
Yes,
so, like,
and then he's 7 now.
Almost the same thing. Like, did you see yourself in that situation too?
Yeah, in fact, what Nadesh just explained is exactly my experience. When you have a baby, you're happy your child is around, and you expect the child to start sitting, then he has to crib, then he has to stand up and walk. So for Jamil, it was okay. He was hitting, those are the milestones we're talking about. Now, at a certain age, you expect your child to start babbling a few words, This wasn't forthcoming. And he was very calm. He was a very calm baby, and I was happy with him. I said, oh, this baby is calm, unlike
he's
his...
too calm.
Yeah, he's too calm, unlike his
calm.
elder brother. But talking about eye contact, I didn't observe that in him. Maybe because I wasn't watching out for that, since I didn't know anything about autism. His feeding was okay. And then at the age of 2, I realized that he would just want to eat some particular food. And that's just what he wants to eat.
Oh.
If you change it, it's a problem. So he can go for the whole day without eating if you don't give him that food. So I felt like, okay, he is a baby, so let me just give him what he likes. But I was also worried, but how would this child have all the necessary nutrients, for him to enable him grow up well? He's just eating one thing. So this was one of the questions that, the worries that I had when I went to see the pediatrician. But the non-verbal one was the most striking, that, he wouldn't make any sound. He was just quiet. He would not talk. And then when you call him, he wouldn't react. You will feel like you're just talking to yourself. But
I remember that
yes, he wouldn't look at you, so you call his name. I'm like, okay, maybe he doesn't yet know his name. But why would a child at the age of 2 not respond?
Yes, when you call.
You know, so these were some of the signs that the symptoms that I observed, and that pushed me to take him to get you know, the doctor, the pediatrician look at him.
I feel like they did some kind of consultation to name their children Levi, Jamal. Those are beautiful names.
Yeah, you know, I would take it from my experience. You know, in my family, I noticed that people generally name their children after someone in the family, maybe a parent or this or that. But following my Christian belief, I said I'll name my child something that has a meaning, that I can tell a story, you know. For his elder brother, I gave him a name. I mean, in my dialect, that name means a gift. He's called a kep, which means gift. This is just to describe, to make me remember under what circumstances I had that child. So at some point in my life, it was like I wasn't going to have another child. So when I conceived Jamil, I said I was lucky. So I was looking for that special name that I'll give to my child to make
the validity.
That would always will constantly remind me of, you know, this wonderful gift that I had. So I gave him the name Ofa, which in my dialect means luck. And then my baby was so handsome when he was born. So I said, I need a name that looks like my child. So I went on the net and I said, and I got the name Jamal. There is Jamal, there is Jamil, that means handsome in the Arab world. So I chose that name for him.
And the name is so going to pursue him throughout, I suppose.
So don't name any child. Bibiana. Bibiana.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear this attack
You
from
did.
Precious.
So moving on, Dr. Holland, we've seen some, let me not say, should I call it symptoms, like when you see a child
from parents
with autistic, these are the things that we kind of will spot out to know that this child is autistic. Because I remember one day in church, we're in church, and then there's this little boy beside the mother, and we're in praise and praying, but the child wasn't like really concentrating. He was just shouting, just crying, just shouting, and I was just there behind in our normal self, that kind of curiosity self. I was just observing this child, just the way he was behaving, and the mom was trying to calm him down, but he doesn't want to hear. So in my mind, I'm like, maybe the noise is disturbing
irritating him.
Yeah, so I just wanted to tell the mom that take him out, maybe the noise is irritating, but I didn't have that courage to say so because I don't know what's wrong. So, and while I was just observing the way the kid was behaving, I thought like maybe this child is autistic and maybe the mom is not aware of it. So,
and you're wondering, how do I say
how
that?
do I say it? But then I'm not a specialist. So, Dr. Holland, how do people like us who are not specialists or who do not know anything, how do you spot a child with autism?
Well, it's a constellation of symptoms. It's not just one thing. So it wouldn't be just a temper tantrum. And that's what we call it in normal children, throwing a temper tantrum. But that happens with autistic children, yes. But every temper tantrum does not mean autism. So it's a series of things. Again, and these are things that others have spoken of. It's the inability to make eye contact, the inability to respond when their name is called, the inability to follow directions. But all of these symptoms relate back to that withdrawal, and that the only thing they're concerned about is what they're thinking, and we don't know what they're thinking, but what they want, what they like, what's pleasant to them, what they want at that moment, and everything else they put out of their minds, and they just wall it up, and so they're unaware of anyone else. They don't relate to people. But in the young children, when you're as a pediatrician, you can pick up a child as young as 6 months of age. You'll see an infant who, when you go to pick them up, usually by 6 months,
carry
they're
their
raising
hands
their
up,
arms
yeah.
up. Yes, take me.
Carry me.
Yes, yes.
But with autistic children, that's not
they
the
won't lift their arms. They won't look at you when you go to pick them up. They won't respond to you when you say their name. They won't even look up at you. You can reach down and pick them up, but they don't participate in that at all. Their arms are at their sides. When you hold them, they don't hold on to you to stay safe.
Yes.
It's natural for a child to put
Of
their arm
course.
around you.
And some even hold really tight.
That's right, and they won't do that. They won't do that. So that's the subtle things in very small infants. But as they get older, you begin to see that when they play with toys, they don't play in a purposeful way. So little boys with a car, they won't go brum 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 and drive it around.
Yeah.
And what they'll do is they'll turn the car over and they'll spin the wheels, just spin, 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 spin the wheels. Sometimes if there's a ceiling fan in the room, the child will stand directly under the ceiling fan and just spin with the fan, spin with the fan. So there are a lot of things that develop and new behaviors that come on as the child gets older. The idea of eating only one food, that they become, again, it's the idea of routines. They have to have routines. Everything has to be the same all the time. So where their clothes are stored, how their clothes are stored, the sequence of things they do every day when they get up, how you approach them to get up, what you feed them, where you let them sit at the table, what utensils you put in front of them. All of this has to be the same every day.
Does it get to a point where trying to break those routines cause a havoc in the evolution process?
They just won't accept it.
They
Sometimes
don't like change.
Yeah, no, they don't want change.
Imagine a parent who has to give one meal to a child for so long. After some time, maybe he stops wanting that and wants another, or he's faithful to that.
For my son, I just had to go with the flow because, you know, like doctor just explained, they have routines. And when you try to change, it throws a tantrum and it becomes a problem. But I think that when I gain awareness about it, following the research I did, talking to specialists, they gave me some tips. You know, they gave me a few tips that I could apply to introduce new items gradually, and you know, eventually making him to like.
What are some of such tips? We want to kind of steal from that.
Okay, well, what worked for my son is, I want to say, I really worked on his diet. Because, you know, today we can't really tell you what causes autism. Like doctor has explained, we don't know what causes it. They'll say it's this, they'll say it's that, but really we don't know. But what I know is that all of us, whether you're on the spectrum or not, you need to eat healthy. So I try to eliminate artificial foods from his diet, okay? So I try to reduce sugar. I took him off gluten, as the bread and you know, starchy
He's
foods.
already too energetic.
Yes, so I try to reduce that. And then I introduce other healthy options, you know, so instead of giving him fried food, I'll try to boil. And instead of giving him regular cooking oil that we use around, I'll give him something like olive oil, you know. So I also put him on fish oil. And I think those help because
And you were able to get him to accept that?
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but like I said, you don't have to force. You have to take it gradually. Gradually.
It shows the one key word with being a parent is patience. That should be the same thing with you being a tutor with regards to that.
Consistency.
With these children,
because I have a question for you, but before we get there, let's just take Nadesh's routine.
Okay,
What's
they
her
have a routine too.
Yes, because as you all say, they like routine. So Nadesh too had a routine that she was following to make sure it doesn't get all around. So let's just listen to Nadesh because she's part of the program though.
Our daily routine with Levi is basically when he wakes up in the morning, he goes to the bathroom, I mean the regular morning stuff, and then he eats and goes to school. And then from school, he has therapy. He has speech therapy because we're still working on his speech, and he has occupational therapy. And yeah, aside from that, he loves jumping on the trampoline. So sometimes that is included in his daily routine. But we make sure that we provide him with everything that he needs to grow and to, to mature the way he's supposed to. So now that he's in school, we just follow the school routine. He's in a special needs school, so they do most of the work. They do some of the work in school, and then we have to continue in the house. So basically, it's just wake up, school, and then other activities, and then bedtime. Nothing much. Speech therapy basically works on his speech comprehension. Occupational therapy is more about, fine skills like helping him go about his day, helping him button his shirt, wear his shoes, just little things that, other kids would do or learn easily, but it takes a little while for some children with autism to learn. So he does that, and then he has other little therapies here and there. And it's very costly if we had to do it out of pocket, but we have health insurance, so the insurance covers most of, if not all of the costs. So we're very grateful for that. But aside from that, there are a lot of other things that we spend on, like maybe toys, or he has a device to help him talk, so yeah, it could be very costly, but you can also be very cost effective, if you know what you're doing.
So, Jochebed. Yeah, finally I got that name.
You did, didn't you?
So you see, we've been talking about routine, and that's the same thing she talked about, routine. So one thing I learned is that autistic children, they are in their own world. And you as a special need educator, how do you manage to get into this world?
That's a very beautiful question. When you're working with children with special needs, you don't just bump into a child and start working with a child.
Okay.
You don't just assume that you know what to do with the child. You have to observe the child in different circumstances, different formats, different environments. Observe the child. You should always have a notebook where you note both positive and negative behaviors, different ways. If you just notice anything new,
Jot it down.
Jot it down. And when you do that, you already tap into the child's world. What do you look out for? You look out for the child's interests. That's the first thing, first of all. What is the child's interest? Because when you know the child's interest, you can use that to teach him anything.
Okay.
Even a child that does not, people like, most times when special needs kids are enrolled in regular classrooms, you hear complaints like from the teachers like he's disturbing, he doesn't want to learn. Who said he doesn't want to learn? He's not able to do this. This child is unable to do this. This child cannot. We even use the word cannot. When you say cannot, it means you have just
condemned
the child. Who said the child cannot?
Some even go as far as hitting.
Who said the child cannot? And it's when you start doing that, the child. Let me say this: children with autism, they are not. It's not a mental illness, so they are not violent. We make them to be violent because of the way we behave towards them. So when you observe your child, you note all those things. It helps you now to know how to tap. I mean, you're already in the child's world. You already know the child. Know your child. In our school, the first thing we always tell the teachers, know your learner. We call them learner. We don't call them students.
Oh,
okay.
Because they are there to learn. Every child is able to learn. Every child. So we put it at the back of our minds that we don't use the word cannot. We don't use the word unable. We say every child is able to learn. So what do? When you note down those things, you look at now the child's challenges and the child's strengths. That's just basically what observation is all about. When you look, then you use the strengths to build up the challenges. For example, if your child is 5 years old. If one of your learners is 5 years old and is still using diapers, we need to potty train the child. You know, as a special need educator, and you also have to educate the parent how to, because they don't know how to potty train. Because, like we said, autistic children work on routines. When they wear diapers, they feel very good. Even in the home, parents will say, when I take off the diaper and my child feels like he wants to use the bathroom, he knows where the diaper is, he goes and picks it up and brings it to me. Because when the child brings the diaper, it means he wants to poop or he wants to pee. So I wear it and then he does that there.
Oh.
Okay, if the child, how did he learn that? Because you kept using it.
So
it means you can reverse it. And how do you reverse? You break down that task into little doable things. First of all, the child needs to go to the bathroom before he can use the toilet, right? The child needs to go to the bathroom. That's one thing. The child needs to put up the seat, you know.
Yes.
That's another step.
Yeah.
The child needs to learn how to sit. That's another step. So you break this. That's what they call task analysis.
Okay.
You break them to little bits, and you take one task at a time.
You maybe train the child to go to the bathroom first of all, and then you do that for some time.
Yes. When you used to doing that, okay, you say, go to the bathroom. The next task is lift up the toilet.
What?
Sit.
Yeah.
You know, lift it up. Like me, like you know, there's this. Lift it up. The child goes. He stands, and then you say, you do it with him. You have to guide the child throughout. You do it, and then you model.
Okay, you
so sometimes when you model, you take and then
you do it.
Use your words, but use short words. Don't use long sentences. Just use one word. Just say, if it's time to go to the toilet, don't say, hey, if the child's name is, for example, Jamie, don't say, Jamie, go to the toilet, and you know, you just say toilet. Or say toilet time. Toilet. You know, you take him to the toilet. You point, toilet, toilet, or bathroom, whatever name you want to use. Bathroom or toilet. When you go there, now, if he knows that, you know, he does that, goes back. Because some of them, I watched a video of an autistic person that became verbal later on in her life. And she said when she used to be young, she used to feel like when she sees somebody flushing the toilet and the water going down, she feels like she would just be flushed with it.
Okay.
Yes. And then another one said, you know, most of them don't tolerate when you touch their hair. She feels like when you're touching, it's like there are needles picking, you know. So there's that sensory thing. So you have to break it. How do you break it? Make sure by being with them every step of the way, when they're with, giving them that, how do you call it? Making them know that there's no fear, you know, breaking that fear. So when you take them to the toilet and back a couple of times, he's able to do that. You say, toilet. When you say toilet and he goes, it means that you have accomplished that objective. And then the next time you take him to the toilet, you say, take off the seat. You do it. You model. You hold his hand, and you do. Make sure it's clean, though. You hold his hand. You lift it up. You know, guide him. When he does that, the next time, you know, you go through every step. The next time now is taking down his pants or his trousers. It may just be like taking it up and down. Even in the, you know, goes to the bathroom, takes it down, maybe up to here, and then you complete it. So he should, you know, that's task analysis. You take down every step until finally one day he'll be able to sit. Some don't want to sit. You know, sometimes you model, sometimes you put them down, you stay with them, and then they sit. If it's just for 5 seconds, if it's just for 1 second, then you stand up until they're able to sit. And one day they'll do it.
Have you ever encountered challenges, like maybe when you're working with autistic children who are going through puberty?
A lot. Before we go to that, it's like doctor wants to say something with respect.
I was just going to say that all of this goes back to the requirement for routine. Okay.
Yes.
And so you make a routine out of toilet behavior. You make it a routine. And if you really closely observe these children, you can see the timing of when they have to use the toilet after their meals, because the body is on a cycle. And you can, if you observe closely, you figure out when each child goes to the bathroom, how long after a meal or after drinking a quantity of liquid do they usually have to go? And so you can begin to anticipate that and take them even before and let them go. And that's part of the process. Now, they may have to sit there for a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. So again, it's part of that routine, and that's what they're establishing.
And that also tells us that you need to be patient.
Oh, yes. And
Mm-hmm.
even more than patience. And one of the...
You can actually stay in that bathroom with the child for an hour. Yes.
You don't
And
say.
he's holding up the pee.
Okay,
The
that's
pee and the
that's
poop.
what's happened to you.
He's holding on to it.
Okay.
He doesn't want to let go. You stay. You stay. And
She says that.
And you
She agrees with that.
And you keep encouraging the child. You don't scold him. You don't shout at him.
Okay.
It's not his fault. It's not his fault that he's autistic. It's not his fault.
And he needs for you to understand that.
Yes.
Like for
Understand
him, he's normal,
And sometimes you use
and
images.
maybe he looks at the others as
Yes.
abnormal.
You use images and videos.
Okay.
There's a way you can use images. You know, sometimes we have learned to draw, or you get, maybe you print an image of a toilet, and then maybe someone sitting and how the poop goes. You know, you have to use all kinds of methods. And that is why I say you have to know your learner. There are some kids that are visual learners. When you teach them through visuals, through videos, through images, they capture it quickly.
Okay.
You know, there are some that want to touch it. You know, they want to feel it, they want to do it. So observe your learner and know your learner.
What is the longest time you've ever used to potty train a child?
Weeks. Like
Weeks?
months. Like their kids have come to our school and they get it maybe after months. And then they get it.
I'm
But what's
interested in
important
your
is they got it
challenges.
after
though.
all.
Yes, they get it.
I'm interested
And
in your challenges.
when they go through every task successfully, just going to the bathroom and out, reward them.
Okay.
Yes.
It could just be a praise. Hey, wow, you did a great job. High five. They love praise. That's what they call motivation. That's what we call reinforcement.
Maybe I'm autistic because I like praise.
Reinforce
You're
them.
not.
Just to say, us who are neurotypical, when you do something so well and you're not appreciated, how do you feel?
Imagine.
So you won't be motivated to do anything.
Yes.
To tell you, and then autistic people, like I said, I would always say that their motivation is extrinsic. It means from outside, from others. They don't have any inner. They don't
Not
have any.
intrinsic kind of.
Not, it's not intrinsic. So you have to motivate them. You know, so coming to your question about puberty. Oh my God.
It's a big challenge when you're dealing with puberty.
A very big challenge. A
So
very big
imagine.
one. We go through
can
it
imagine.
every day, like every day. And unfortunately, most special educators are ladies, or most educators are ladies. So
And contrary to the fact that
Yes.
most autistic children are
male.
boys, yes.
So when they come to that age where they start maturing, you start seeing how some of them have crushes on the teachers.
Okay.
And the bodies are behaving funny.
Yeah, the body is
Yes.
saying something.
To tell you that autism does not affect that area of sexuality. They develop well.
Good.
They develop so well. You see some of them, they just want to watch a particular picture because they've seen someone there that they love. You know, we have students who just go around looking at the pictures around the office around the school. They just keep looking, or when there are flyers, they have that particular flyer every time. I've even met one in church with that flyer. He's just admiring someone there and all of that. To tell you that it doesn't, to tell you that autistic people can marry, they can have their own kids.
Live a
They can have
normal
a
life.
family. Yes,
Have
they can have. So what we do is just to guide them, understand them. It's a natural thing that God has put in humans. That the difference is that they cannot control themselves.
Yeah.
So you have to guide them. You have to teach them, like I said, using images, using words like scripts, like the ones that are elderly who can understand. You can use scripts like, what we call social stories. Okay. You can bring up a story like when I feel like, if I feel like loving someone, it doesn't mean I have the right to touch the person. It is normal. You just start by saying it's okay for me to feel this way because God made me this way. But I don't have to touch the person. I have to keep my cool. If I feel funny, I can go out and run around. You see? So that's a small script. And you can put it every day to read. When you read that, they understand it. Or you use images, make sure you put the images. Just like how we can use images to teach some of the children how to tolerate using the toothbrush. Some don't like using a toothbrush. So you use images, you use every step. When I wake up in the morning, you put a picture. Morning, you wake up, then you I get into the bathroom, you put a picture of the bathroom, I pick my toothbrush, and I squeeze toothpaste, and then I brush my teeth so that
I see the passion. I mean, just the way she talks about the children, you feel it. And Dr. had mentioned the fact that you have to have that passion, that love. When
That's exactly what I wanted to bring up again, and I think we had talked about that in the previous session. But the people that you take your child to for therapy, for schooling, you have to choose people that you can tell have a passion for what they're doing for these children, because without that love, the children are not going to receive it. And you know that even neurotypical children are very sensitive to these emotions, and when they're around an adult who doesn't like children, they sense it. They know it
at once.
So if that love is not there, they're not going to benefit from the therapy. If the therapist they're going to really doesn't like his work and really doesn't like his patients, they're not going to progress at all.
Okay. So, Jochebed, how extreme can an autistic child go when things are not going his way or her way?
Could they even get brutal?
Some can be very violent, like on themselves or on you. I've had a child, I've been slapped by an autistic girl.
Oh, wow. And then a girl.
Just because she was angry with something else, maybe from home.
Okay.
And then,
Transfer of aggression.
She just walks in and just walks to me and gives me a slap. So we go through such things every day.
In that kind of scenario, how do you solve it?
No, it depends. You hold the child and you calm her down. You see her,
You don't return the slap.
You do not, you dare not. You don't do that.
How dare you?
You don't.
That will be explosive, I suppose.
Don't. First of all, when every negative behavior has a reason.
Yeah.
There's the reason for every behavior. You don't just sit and say the child is disturbing.
The child will not disturb for nothing, yeah.
A child cannot be violent for nothing. There's something, especially... An autistic child can just be angry because maybe when I'm going to school, this is the road mommy uses to go to school. And then he knows he's going to school and he's looking forward to his favorite activity in that place. And then you're taking another route.
Are you okay? Why should you?
Yes, how dare you? So what we do, you have to tell the child beforehand that today I'm going to take another route. Because maybe mommy needs to pass and do something this way, or maybe this road is... try to... They understand.
Yes.
They understand. Maybe this road has some issue here. Okay, today we are going to take another route to school. You have to tell them, tell them things beforehand.
I kind of have the impression that if your first child is autistic, at the end of the day, or if you have one child who is autistic, at the end of the day, you rather tend to be a wonderful parent.
Yes.
Yes, because they need to have that dialogue, understanding, communication in that way, and you just find yourself being an amazing parent.
Yeah.
It's so warm, talking about these and feeling it. It feels like it's actually easy to live with them. We may have just mystified it and looked at it like, okay, it should be so disturbing. I know the challenges. Yeah. What are the kind of challenges you face?
Another challenge is when you see a child hurting himself, because he's angry or because, something is not going well. It is really heartbreaking. You have kids that they are beating themselves here, they have bruises all over, and sometimes you look at how can I, there's scars, And then another challenge is when you find parents who, because most of the time they claim to be busy.
Yeah.
It's true, they are busy. Parents who become so frustrated, they don't know what to do. They are like, why did God give me this child? I always say that collaboration between parents and your child's teacher is very important.
Yeah.
But if your teacher is doing their best, and then you are not putting in an effort, it's very frustrating. It's like you're undoing what a teacher is doing. Yeah. Because like I talked about consistency. Whatever you do as a therapist to the child, the parents should be able to pick it up and do it more.
Follow the sequence
and do it. That's why we always give homework. A parent will ask me, why every day they're sending the same assignment that the child should listen to a particular song. What was that song? Or maybe Mary had a little lamb, little lamb. Every day you're sending me the song that, what is that for? And the parent gets frustrated and is angry. For him or for her, the child is not doing it. But there's a reason why we want the child to do that. Assignments could be just some stupid thing, some things that you think is just stupid. Maybe just come to the house, pick this, put corn and beans, like different things together that have different colors, different types. So the child to sort.
Okay.
Parents may think that it's just a stupid thing to do.
Like seriously, every day.
And they feel like it's not improving.
It's challenging when a parent will not understand that, will not understand. So I'm saying this to say that collaboration between parents and
teachers
and your child's therapist is very important.
Okay.
So it's really challenging sometimes on the job when you're not having that feedback that you want.
Yeah, that's coming from the parent. And that will make me want to turn to you, Madam Delphine. Do you identify your child in some of these challenges just mentioned?
Yes, I identify my child in most of them, in most of the challenges. I want to talk about the sensory part of it. She mentioned. I used to find it very difficult to take my son to the barber, for example. He wouldn't let you touch his head.
Okay.
Yes, it was
the hair thing.
It was a big deal. You will fight with him. You need to get 2-3 people to really hold him down tight. And you can imagine you holding him, and then he's moving around with his head, and then the barber is struggling. To the extent that most of the barbers that knew me, when they see me coming with my son, they will be looking for somebody else to handle him. But what I did was I felt like maybe the environment was maybe too crowded or too noisy, or the child wasn't comfortable there. So I had to make friends with the barber to come and shave him at home.
Okay.
So I had 1 or 2 barbers that came to the house to shave him. It wasn't still easy, but at least gradually he became used to.
So now he can have a shave?
Right now I don't have a problem. Just a few days ago I told the guard, I said, take him to the barber, and he has very nice cuts. Before now, when he will go to the barber, they will just remove everything. But now they take time. Yes, I tell them what I want them to do for him, and he likes it. When they shave it, he looks in the mirror to make sure that
admire himself.
Yes. Getting up in the morning wasn't always easy, because when you tap him, he starts with a cry. He doesn't want to get up, or he gets up, he's feeling frustrated. Then now you have to take him to the bathroom to use the toothbrush. But I use a lot of visual aid. I got so many programs for him on the net, videos where he could watch some cartoons. So he would watch a cartoon of a child brushing. They have this popular cartoon called Coco Melon. You brush your teeth, brush your teeth. So it's a song. We use play to learn, So we sing the song, and then we have the toothbrush. And I'm also brushing, so I'm showing him I'm doing it. His brother is doing it. I have a girl in the house. She too is doing. So everybody, he's looking at me, looking at everyone.
Like everyone is brushing.
And so you give him a toothbrush, and he holds it like this. The first time he will do it once, and he will throw the toothbrush. But you need to insist. Okay, insist. If he feels frustrated, you can leave it. Yes, and then the next day you try again, and then gradually he gets used to it, and then it no longer is a problem. Yeah.
That comes so interesting.
We know that autism has been mystified in Africa. So what have you ever had an experience of stigmatization where your son is being stigmatized?
Yes, in the beginning, I think the whole issue is that people are not aware. They don't really know. They feel like it's an illness. Okay, if you have malaria, they know you can take this medication and you get well. If you have typhoid, you can take this medication and you get well. But what is this one that a child doesn't talk for no obvious reason? So people become suspicious and they start trying to advise you. That's their own way of helping. They say, oh, take the child to the village, talk to your parents. Maybe there's somebody in the village that can help to do some cleansing. Yeah, and the area where I come from Manu Division, and we have all these stories with children with 4 eyes, Obanje, and things like that. So maybe he has 4 eyes, maybe he's an Obanje, maybe he's this. So I had those kind of you know, advances, but because I'm someone that is enlightened, I just didn't fall prey to that, you know. Some even ask me, have you gone to, you pray a lot, have you gone to see a man of God to see? I say, I pray generally, okay, but I'm not taking my child to any man of God to pray specifically for his condition. I would take my child to the hospital. So yes, from the hospital I got the diagnosis, and I could read about it on the net, talk to other parents that have children with disabilities, you know, subscribe to communities where parents are dealing with these issues, you know. So that general awareness really saved me from that part of it. So many people in the rural areas are suffering from that. Some people even tell you beat the child, you leave the child outside. Some even go and keep their children by the stream.
That is the one I was wanting to get to.
This is so heartbreaking. It is so heartbreaking.
Back in the days, but I doubt that those things are even talked about these days.
Yes, it's so heartbreaking. Autistic children have a lot of potential. They have a lot of potentials. They just need to find themselves in the right center, you know, get the right therapy,
and
like
get into their world.
Yes, you get into their world, and you know, with patience and love and acceptance.
That
Yes.
acceptance.
When you accept it, then you stand as an advocate for your child. You know, you look for all the support systems, the one you can afford. So you get all the support systems and, you know, make your child get the right therapy. Then you can pray for God to help the therapy to work.
Yeah,
you
to
cannot
understand.
just pray
Only
to
then,
God
yes.
and then you're not doing any other thing. So get the therapies and pray that God should help those therapies to work.
Okay,
for
so
your
let's
child.
get Nadesh, her own experience, because she said she has experienced stigmatization from her son, especially when she went to a party. And then one lady was saying something. So let's just hear her.
That can be painful.
Oh my God. So stigmatization is very normal. I want to say normal, you know, when you have a child who has autism, because these kids are special. They have a way of doing their own things and they just do it. And what we consider normal, it's not their normal. You know, Levi will flap his hands or make some sounds or run up and down or just bust out laughing out of nowhere or just cry out of nowhere. And I've seen people give us the side eye, the bombastic side eye, you know, because he keeps talking or he keeps making his sounds when people are quiet, you know. So especially in church, you see people whispering and pointing, other little kids pointing, or you know, it's normal. But one situation that happened that really hit my heart was we were at an event and we're sitting beside the lady and Levi kept going up and down, running. You know, he has a lot of energy. He kept running up and down and, you know, just going about his business. And then the lady, well, she was a young lady sitting by us, said, I pray God never gives me this kind of child because I know fit. Like, I pray say me God never give me the kind picking I beg. Like, I know fit, you know. And it really hits you hard. You know, sometimes people talk and they don't understand or they don't realize what their words do. But words can hurt, you know, and sometimes you don't understand what you're saying, but you just talk. Yeah, so stigmatization is something that we've encountered and experienced a lot.
stigmatization, and people just say things like that just what they feel. Imagine someone saying that I pray God does not give me a child like you. So
like, what are you thinking? How can you talk like that?
like seriously, and they feel like this thing is not getting into you directly. So, and some people will think that maybe it's bad parenting. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes. When you have a child with a disability, people around you would always look at a child with some scorn, you know, and some have the courage to come and talk to you. Some talk behind your back. They criticize your child, and you know, when I have an experience like that, it doesn't shock me. Okay, it doesn't shock me. I always console myself with the fact that everybody in life is dealing with their own issues. Okay. Everybody has their own challenge. They have their own skeletons in the cupboard. Maybe mine is my child that is on the spectrum, but yours could be something that is even worse than that. Autism is not a disease, it's not a death sentence. You just need to understand the condition, and then you know how to follow up your child. So it's very painful. It's very painful when you get that. But if I have a chance to talk to someone, you know, I tell them, you know, what has really helped me is the fact that I try to sensitize my environment. My child goes to church, I take him to places. If I'm going for a party, if it's a kid's party, my child goes with me. I don't keep him in the house. If I have to go to the supermarket, I go with him. If it's a restaurant, I go with him. But if I realize that he's putting up some of those funny behaviors, I just sensitize people around and tell them that he's a special need. So
are there any moments, let me not interrupt, but I want to find out if there are some moments that the other children maybe feel like you having more attention towards him than the sibling, for instance?
Yes, they understand, because I've already told them that he is different. Okay, he needs more attention.
Needs,
yes, he needs more attention. I need to, you know, always be with him to support him. And I've educated the entire family, so everybody understands that that particular child is my heart. Okay.
And at the end of the day, you realize that it's not just you now having that attention, but every other sibling and every other person.
So that's why it's important to sensitize your environment. It begins with the family, then the community, because if everyone gets to understand that this is what is actually going on, you know what the condition is all about, then you have support. So people get scared, or people feel negative about it because they don't know, they are not aware. Okay, so in my church community, I let them know. I tell the Sunday school teachers that he's a special need. So I'm not there with him, but they take care of him. I'm my own part of the service, and he is there in the Sunday school, and everything goes on well because they already know.
They already know. Now to Dr. Holland, before I'd want to get to find out if there's some researches that have been done which is promising towards autism, but before that, there's this worry I've been nursing with regards to some other options where people get the chance of knowing a condition before birth. And I know I'd been talking to a parent, you made me understand it wasn't autism, but are there chances of knowing before birth the child's condition when it comes to autism?
Right at the moment, there are no prenatal diagnostic means. An echocardiogram doesn't show anything that can be distinguishable as representing evolving autism. We do know that in young autistic children, and by that I mean the 2- and 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, that when we do imaging of the brain, there are 2 areas of the brain that we do see changes in, and those areas are the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in thinking, decision-making, planning, interrelational behaviors, and then the amygdala, which is responsible for emotion like fear and anger and aggression, which is very interesting that it's those 2 areas when you look at the behaviors of an autistic child. Well, we don't see that on the imaging in anything prenatally, that we see that after the symptoms have become apparent.
Okay, and now as per researchers, are there some positive steps towards the research that give some hope towards maybe managing the condition of autism?
Right at the moment, because it's such a broad spectrum, it's very difficult to focus research. But because all the newest research is focusing on the gene pool and the sequencing the genome, the human genome, that's where people are looking to see if there's an association with one or more genes toward autistic patients. But right at the moment, it's not been identified.
So rich. I feel like the time would never be enough for us. I know you had a worry as well. I was conscious, but I was intrigued.
Exactly, because when we used to talk about taking care of children, is usually you see more of mothers getting involved in activities that has to do with taking care of children. Mm-hmm. So I just want to know, where do the father come in? Where do the father come in? Because it's a work, like that's where you bring in now the aspect of couples.
Yeah, and like a team.
Yes, it's a teamwork, so it's not supposed to be left on one person's shoulder. So I would like to ask Doctor, how do you coach men or fathers? Because the autistic child is already, let me not say frustrated, like when you do something that he or she does not want, it's already frustrating. And now the men are more...
They're not that patient.
They don't have that patience. They don't have that emotion a mother has. So how do you coach a man or a father to kind of align with the needs of an autistic child and be patient and show that patience that is required to handle a child?
Well, there's no specific way to coach them, let's say. But what you try to do is to make them aware of the fact that, which is true for normal children, and that is that the children look up to their parents, both of them, but especially to the father, because the father is that figure that is the authority figure, and he's the one to be admired more. Mama's the one who's the nurturer. Okay, and so if you remind them that this is their role, and then point out to them the majority of autistic children are males. And male children need to look up to their father, that their father is their mentor, their father is their role model. And so they're looking to their father. And when a father then rejects a child, that's devastating to a child. Just as devastating to a daughter, but sometimes you can bring them to an understanding better when you talk about the male-to-male relationship.
And as a teacher who is working with these children, do you often get parents who are fathers, to be precise, who come to look after their children and who are so concerned?
Yes, a lot. I would say that it's true that when you go to schools, it's mostly the mothers who are around. No parents, the fathers work.
Yes.
They have the
breadwinner back home.
And most of the time they may not have time. But I know fathers who come around more than the mothers. And I'm so proud of them. They are more involved with the day-to-day therapy of the children. They're always asking questions. Even I know some fathers who are not around, they don't work in town, but they always call.
I remember you said a father had to give up a very important meeting because he had to come to school.
Yes. Because he had to come to school to work with the therapists and specialists and all of that.
That's new, right? Yes. Because most parents, we didn't know those things.
They always say there's seminar, there used to be seminar for women, seminar empowering young girls, seminar on empowering women, but you hardly hear seminars on empowering men or fathers.
But I would say there's a training that we are working on, and that involves parents. And I was very surprised that when I looked through the list, when we sent out the information to the parents, some fathers actually enrolled in the program.
So kudos to fathers.
Kudos to them indeed. That is so amazing. Now, what would you want to tell a parent whose child is autistic? I want to get your impression before we run off. I hate it when the program is coming to an end because I feel like there's so much I want to hear.
We are going to have 4 impressions because Nadesh too is, she too has her own last word.
Okay, great.
Okay, the first thing I would tell a parent is acceptance. Accept that your child has issues. Don't keep saying, God forbid, who bewitched me. Stop looking for all those avenues, please. Accept that that your child has issues, and then look for help. Sometimes people always think about the cost. That hey, if I have to see this therapist, the other therapist, the other one, my finances cannot permit me. But work on yourself. Do your own research. Learn and help your child. Okay. Because most of those things are little things that we can do at home. You just work on yourself. I mean, go to the internet. Instead of, there's so many women that spend their time on social media and all. Take off time social media.
And do research for your child.
That time, that data that you're using for social media, do research. And if you have the ability to meet a specialist, get a specialist.
Okay.
Don't sit and say, there's no hope for me, there's hope for you. And don't lock up your child at home. Don't be ashamed of your child. Don't feel guilty. Don't think that maybe God is punishing you for something. It's not you. It's not the child. It's not a punishment. There's a blessing in every child. There is a blessing. Find that one thing that your child can do and push the child into it.
I'll take the niche from where she says, don't lock up the child in the house. And that takes me to her, because you say you take him to parties and all. So what would you tell a parent whose child is autistic?
I want to encourage all parents, okay? All parents who have children on the spectrum, telling them that a child with autism has a lot of potentials. You just need to find out the good center and put your child on good therapy, and you wouldn't regret it.
Okay.
That is a great one.
So before we get to doctor, let's get Nadesh. Let's get her own word of advice to parents out there.
I consider myself an autism advocate. I have a page on Facebook where I talk about, my son's situation. I talk about autism as a whole. I talk to parents. I encourage parents. I encourage even kids with autism. My page is called My Life, My Story, My Sons, and we're on Facebook. So I go out there and I really explain certain things to people who don't understand, because we need that. A lot of people don't understand what autism is about. So we need more people to create that awareness. And also we're working on an NGO in Cameroon. Why in Cameroon? Because I think that autism is not talked about enough in Cameroon. And I hear a lot of crazy comments that come from people in Cameroon about autism. And it's something that we need as many hands as possible to make people understand. We have to push it down people's throats so they understand that kids with autism are normal kids. That is their own normal. And everyone needs to understand that they're kids just like every other, or they're humans just like every other human being. My advice to society is that be open. God created people in different ways, and kids with autism are not different from other humans. And they are actually very smart if you know how to interact with them. Let's stop the name calling. Let's stop the stigmatization. Let's stop the finger pointing. Oh, you are the reason why this child is like this. We don't need that. We just need to embrace these children or these individuals and learn from them, because there's a lot that I learn every day from Levi. Actually, Levi is 7 and he taught himself how to play the piano. He never went to any class, and he started reading at 2. So they have special powers. I call them superheroes because they have special powers. To parents out there who have kids with special needs, please don't complain about your kids. Don't be sad. and don't focus on having your kids do what you think that is normal, because they have their own normal. Actually, we are the ones giving them a name, like, oh, they're autistic. To them, they're living their normal life. That is who they are, and it hurts when society is pointing at our kids and calling them names, but it hurts more when the parents who have these children don't have the back of the children, like they're not supporting the children. It hurts more. You should be the one standing for your child and telling people how to treat your child and why your child is like this. Do your research. You don't have to have a lot of money to take care of your child, but make sure that you are there for the child and focus on the strengths of your child and forget about their weaknesses. If you do that, your life is going to be way easier. One thing that I have never done since I had Levi is complain about anything, like complain to God or complain to people or say that he's just punishing me or call him any name that is not his. But I have done everything possible to make sure that I work on his strengths. For example, Levi loves music. If you go into his room, he has a piano, he has a xylophone, he has a guitar, he has a drum, anything that will help him build in that thing that he's interested in. I bring it to him. He has books because he loves to read. So feed on the strengths of your child and help them there, and then get some help outside. Read, do a lot of reading. There is a lot of information online. And please hold your child's hand. These children are special and they're the future of tomorrow. Thank you so much.
This is indeed really very interesting. Yeah, and it just makes us understand that we live with the children every day, and I would want you to conclude the program for us today with your words of advice.
Well, I think that the summary of what we've heard from everyone involved is that the keys are, number one, acceptance, okay? But maybe perhaps even more important than that is love. Because you can accept them, but if you don't have that compassion for them and an understanding, then all that you try to do is a waste, okay? Oh. And then the third thing, as far as I'm concerned, is commitment.
Yes.
You have to be committed to finding the best for them. And one of the things I think that was true for Jamail was that he was exposed in school. I know from Jochebed school that these children are integrated into normal classrooms. So instead of putting them off in a special needs class where it's nothing but autistic children, no. They get to observe normal children learning, and so this creates a challenge for them because they are so bright, but they just aren't able to express all that they understand. And so putting them into a normal classroom, taking them out and letting them experience more things, all of these things really, really help tremendously.
God, I'm really filled, and with all what we have heard, I don't think there's anything I need to add.
Like, we've learned so much.
It's beautiful, and it's how we come to the end of the program today, Moi Femme, and we're looking forward to a better future tomorrow with regards to our autistic children. They love the color blue. It represents autism. So stay blue. Bye-bye.